Well, I know you are perfectly capable of soldiering on without me, as you did 2 weeks ago while I was off on holiday. So thanks for that, Ben.
I mean, I had Amanda to help me out, so I wasn't totally
And
alone.
if you need me, absolutely.
Hello, guys. Good morning.
Good
Morning.
morning, Mr. Kennedy. How are you this fine day? Or sorry, that was Enrique. I saw
No
Rich, and
problem.
it was like Rich was pulling the strings and Enrique's mouth was moving or something. Oh,
Morning.
Puppet Master indeed. Puppet Master indeed. Great book. Gentlemen and ladies, do we have any ladies here? I don't know. Connor's meeting's here, so I'll be kind to her as well. Everyone, welcome and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. And we're going to do a little office hours, nice and quiet today. Don't have a lot on tap, so we always want to first open the floor. Has anybody had any challenges? Anything that we can look into technically? Any new tweaks? Any new ideas you've come up with?
Um, the only thing that I'm bumping into, and I'm not sure that you necessarily can help, but maybe, um, I am running into more and more customers with Facebook, Twitter, social media type stuff. Um, in monitoring, managing, you know, just like monitoring for changes would be a great example. Like no new accounts were added, you know, setting up break glass accounts and and those types of things. Any suggestions?
When it comes to using their Microsoft credentials to go do these things, is that what you're talking about?
No, no, no. So like if a lot of companies, right, in the old days it was just web pages, right? That was the only thing that mattered, right? So Cloudflare is out and there's a lot of good options to protect a website, whether it's 2FA or tying it to SSO only logins, things like that. But when it comes to Facebook, company Facebook pages, company Twitter accounts, company, you know, Publer, Growably, anything that is social media related. I mean, I've had a couple of customers that, although their environments weren't compromised, their social media accounts were compromised because I have no
Mm.
visibility. So, like, I have no visibility to know if a new account was established. I have no visibility to know if a password was changed. I have no visibility to tie it to SSO. I can't say, hey, only come from, say, my, SGN IP address or this range of IP addresses. I can't block it from, outside the United States. I mean, all the things that are available for everything else are not available for social media accounts. So I've been looking and looking and looking, and I can't find a solution.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, I think you've actually, before we dive into your maybe a perhaps a solution. I mean, I don't know if I have a solution, but in general, we now see that as engineers, I can't live without that kind of data. I need that syslog data for every one of my applications, for every one of my places my accounts are being used, for every piece of our infrastructure. I have to have that. And so we need to, as a community, continue to push our software manufacturers to give us that. And it's even something like Duo, fantastic product. They share one good piece of data in their API. And that's a
Yeah.
challenge for a security company to not be more transparent about that. And so, with that in mind, Ben or anybody else, have you tripped across any good way of monitoring things like who is managing your web page, who is managing your social accounts?
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
it's
even if I could get like a seam, you know what I mean, to or the API or something to ingest.
Right.
If I can get that data, I just can't imagine that somebody hasn't, you know, beat them over the head. But
I guess it would be kind of tricky because it would be an API that would be specifically tied to a specific user. Like it wouldn't be like Facebook's not like tenanted like Microsoft and Google is. So they would never give you access to everything, and we wouldn't even be able to process it. It'd be so much anyway. So I guess it would be. It's an interesting problem, but it would have to
You're
be.
welcome.
Yeah, it would have to be on a per user basis almost, because Facebook, business accounts are inevitably tied to a personal account. You can create them, but you can't sign directly into them like business accounts. Um, so it'd be basically you would be monitoring the personal accounts that have access to the business account. But as far as like sign-in logs, that would be tricky. I could definitely add it as a requested feature or a requested app wizard integration. Uh, I don't know how far it'll go, but we can see. It's yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah, because it's not just Facebook, right? You got Twitter or
Yeah.
X or whatever you want to call it. You've got like Shopify. I have a lot of clients that use Shopify.
Hmm.
Well, there's no security controls for Shopify. Everything is in-house. How do you manage that as a security vendor for a company?
Or
You can't.
Square or any one of those vendors. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and
Square's another great one, another great example. How do I manage, even if I can do nothing but monitor so that I can tell them, hey, your password just changed, or hey, a new user was just added. Did you do this? Even if I had that level of visibility, my options are, that's 1,000, 2,000% increase over what I have now, which is zero.
Right. Yeah, if I can see something, I can protect it. If I can't see it, I have no idea what's going on. Couldn't possibly pretend to protect it. And how do you tell your client that, hey, you're using a service that I can't help you with? That
Exactly.
puts us in a poor position. So,
yeah.
has anybody else? I know we've got some folks from some smaller and some larger firms here. Anybody else got any bright ideas there? Steve, I think you're in a world of hurt along with the rest of us. We just don't have that visibility yet. But Ben, that is a sort of an interesting concept to take back. Is I know we want to
Yeah.
monitor everything we can. How many of those squares and those point of sale things?
Well, and it would have to be something that, they would have to have already been provided, because those companies are already to a size where, even if we came to them and said, hey, we have a handful of customers want to monitor, I doubt we'd even get a return email. But I do know that they do provide APIs. I know that they're not the easiest things to get. Facebook used to be easy to get an API with, but they've made it a little bit more difficult now. But being successful with Facebook would almost immediately mean you're successful with Instagram, because I think they're basically the part and parcel. Twitter would be interesting, or X. I don't know if X or whatever they're calling it has an API. I would be very interested to see that. Yeah,
Well,
apparently
yeah, but I mean,
they do.
I think there's simple examples that can be put forward, right? From a business case perspective to present to them. I mean, I have a congressman that I, consult with, on some security issues, and his Facebook and his Twitter feeds got hacked,
Mhm.
and they started publishing all kinds of interesting things.
I bet.
That was, and he lost all access, and the amount of hours that we spent. I mean, it's very profitable. Don't get me wrong. Uh, but the amount of hours that we spent just getting his accounts back to him, back under his control was insanity. But I'm sure someone is going to say to me, "Well, if they weren't reusing the same password, that wouldn't have been an issue." You know what I mean? And there's no argument, right? Like, there's nothing that I can say other than you are 100% correct, because and potentially monitoring the dark web for anything related to a particular to their domain, right, or their email address, could potentially, be that trigger. That would be
Eric
interesting.
tossed an idea into the chat about, if you can force them to use a password manager
Yeah.
and then get some visibility of what's happening when they change their password or things like that, that might go away if you can get the logs out of the password manager to give you at least some visibility of what's going on.
Yeah,
So
that's the only thing that I can think about. But could you imagine having to constantly scan, for anything at that user and say, hey, whatever account matches this password, this just got leaked, and then having to have them go and search through their password manager for that password? It's just not very realistic,
Well, I know Bitwarden does dark web monitoring for you with their commercial version, and they also, I believe, I know LastPass, I think Bitwarden does the same thing. We give you like a password, a security score, and at my last MSP, we kind of gamified that to say, whoever got to 100% or whatever would get $100 or something like that. But encouraging a good cyber hygiene is something that we could do internally or at the business, and that would help you, so you won't have to look for that specific password. Most of them will identify this password's been leaked. You don't want to do this, so that it may help you a little bit there.
Yeah, and the other thing that was a little disappointing was the fact that you can't set up, or at least I haven't found it, a way to set up a break glass account. Like I'm sure every MSP on the planet has break glass accounts. If all else fails, I can go to the safe, pull this out, and crack the code and go and log into the domain. The Office 365 tenant, whatever. They don't even give you that.
Yeah, they don't give you a fallback position.
Yeah, they don't give you much of anything if you're trying to set up an account that's not a real person. There's people that try to get around that system all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I totally see their position, right? Because you got a lot of a-holes out there that are doing really bad things. But
True.
When it comes to a commercial account, I should be able to say, here's my business license, here's who I am, and here's why this account exists, right? I mean, there should be something, even if I'm tying it to my own company, even if I used my own company account to say, hey, level 5 is the global account. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I would prefer to not have it tied to something specific at my business, because if God forbid anything ever happened to me, I'm a gate, and I don't want to be that either.
Yeah.
Right. And none of us wants to be the next SolarWinds. We don't want to be
100%.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I'll definitely make the future requests and
and
make
kind
your
of going down
case.
that pipe, Ben. I mean, I don't think we've had a lot of requests for things like Square or anything else, but that's probably something that should be on our devs radar.
I think so too.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay.
Well, I'm
Well,
sorry we don't
thanks
have a
for the
better
time.
answer for you.
Oh
Yeah,
no,
absolutely, Steve,
that's
but good
good.
discussion.
Yeah.
Good discussion. Fantastic. I really appreciate you bringing that up, Steve. Does anybody else have any questions that may not specifically have to do with the platform, but are security challenges that we could sort of toss to the audience here?
Any new features? Any new?
I don't know if you've seen the new GUI.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
And I got to see it mobile.
Let me see.
Oh, I haven't seen it on the mobile app yet. That's a good point. By the way, anybody who's not using the mobile app, I would definitely recommend you take that for a test drive. I had a partner yesterday tell me he actually likes managing his instance there better than he does with the web app. So be sure to notice that whether you're an Android or an iOS user.
But we're still just seeing the alert stuff, not managing, correct?
Oh no, in the mobile app, you can do just about everything that you do on the web app as well.
When did that happen? Mine.
Yeah, you can do respond rules. You can respond to rules that are triggered. I don't think Fortify is in there unified, but you can view logs. You can respond to rules that are especially that are set to manual. They'll show up under that to-do list at the top of the screen.
Okay. So there's nothing to do.
But
Yeah, if anybody hasn't seen it, Ben's showing us what looks new. Settings has moved around.
That map, Ben, that you just showed, that's the one we have all the time, the risk dashboard.
Mhm.
Well, I have it on the report side, the risk dashboard. And I've noticed for the last couple of weeks, I usually had like you have there a whole bunch of little lights all over the
Mhm.
eastern side of it. And it's been very quiet for the last couple of weeks, which makes me wonder, did they take a break or something's not popping up?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Enrique, being where we are sort of at a meta level, and I can see those great big overviews. We noticed that the minute Russia invaded Ukraine, there was a ton of places that used to have lots of attacks coming from them that just went quiet. And as the new UI is out right now, Adam, if you log in, you'll see it. This is actually in production. You might have to refresh your browser or something, but yeah, you should get it. But yeah, we see that sort of ebb and flow, Enrique. We've seen all of a sudden lots of activity happening from sub-Saharan Africa, and then months later it'll go away and the attacks will shift. We've seen a bunch of folks, and this has actually been really fun to show clients that last month somebody was attacking from quote unquote the Kremlin. So we had tons of attacks that were literally coming out of Red Square or being reported that. There you are. Glad to see it, Adam. Um, we had it, so that was a very effective sales tool to say, look, it looks like the Kremlin's attacking you. So that was kind of fun. We see that ebb and flow. I don't know if it's just they've gone to go beat up on somebody else, not your clients, Enrique, or if that's actually quieted down in that part of the world.
Okay, so but no issue with Microsoft or you guys taking the logs that we know of.
No, we haven't seen any issues. We've got all of our little heartbeat monitors on the endpoints, and all the rest of that are popping along as we would anticipate. We haven't seen any degradation of signal coming from Microsoft or any of the other applications. Let's be honest.
Awesome. Thanks.
One thing I did want to show you guys, if you go under customize alerts, I didn't know this until today or until yesterday, but you can now drag this down right here and select the application that you're interested in seeing the alerts for, like Microsoft, and it'll show you all the stuff that only, that relates to Microsoft, which I thought was really helpful, because in the past I've had people just exporting alerts and sorting it with Excel, but this does allow you to do a little bit easier searching. Like if we want to see all the ones that reply to like IT glue, like there's all of our IT glue alerts.
53 things that we can monitor in IT glue.
Yeah. Oh, that was really cool. Okay. That's like something small, but I thought it was like huge in my book.
That, and actually, Ben, that was a request that's about 2 years old that we finally brought to fruition because we had enough people asking for it. We had an initial ask for that, literally 2 years ago, and they said, just export this and dump it to a CSV, and you can always sort it there. But to be able to do that in real time here, yeah, thank you, Zach. Yeah, appreciate
Now we
that.
still can't remediate with this granularity yet. Still 365 only.
As far as, yeah, the short answer is
The
yes,
respond.
but in the respond engine and the automation engine, look for G Suite very shortly. And when I say very shortly, I think it's going to happen this quarter, because I've already seen them doing some stuff in our dev sandbox with that in respond. So if you've got G Suite clients, look for more of that. And once G Suite is done, they're going to circle back and start to look at other applications. Again, IT Glue or anything else, if the API allows us to reach back and make changes. That's really where it kind of hits the rubber hits the road. But yeah,
Now, does that
Ben,
same filter apply at at the client level?
what we're filtering on, not at the client level. We can make changes at the client at the global level, then bump them up using custom respond rules, but there's no way to filter at a client level, like filter out G Suite or filter out Dropbox alerts in a different way than we would filter Microsoft alerts at the client level. That's still only a global thing.
Okay, so you can't make specific rules based on the tenant level yet?
No, you'd have to use the respond engine to generate those kind of custom rules. And like if for instance, like the question was asked the other day about IAM events happening outside of approved location.
Hmm.
Partner wanted a different set of rules for G Suite as opposed to Microsoft. And I don't have that level of granularity just yet. That is coming though.
Yep.
But yeah, Enrique, sorry, not a heck of a lot new to offer you about what's coming or what's here, but
It's
I think
okay.
Amanda sort of floated some of the ideas that she's got coming in the reporting module 2 weeks ago. So look for some updates there. This is the sort of thing that we're laying the groundwork right here by changing the UI to add in some functionality later in the year. So stay tuned.
Awesome.
Yeah. Usual suspects.
Oh, so remember, Ben, the rule we created with the successful brute force attack?
Mhm.
That cost me 2 triggers, 2 auto respond triggers. So it turns out both were via mobile phones. They were actually valid users, but you know how sometimes you're trying to log in and the 365 prompt kind of just doesn't respond at all.
Yeah.
That's what triggered those 30 attempts in a minute, things like that, that took it to feel like a successful brute force attack. Because obviously it was the user, but it's been
Yeah.
happening on mobile platforms. So I guess I might have to tweak the rule. We should be able to exclude mobile, shouldn't we?
Yep. That's one of your filters. So if you did authentication successful and put the filter as where is it?
OS. Scroll
Yeah.
up, please. Yeah, there we are.
Ish. So if the mobile S is false, then
Okay.
that would run that.
Yeah, that would
Good,
eliminate those false positives.
perfect.
That should still run even if I don't know if I'm pretty sure that would still run even if you don't use any Unify or anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because Microsoft's pretty good at reporting the OS on most of its alerts, especially IAM.
Correct. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
No, it's a great question. It's a great execution.
Am I human? Wow. Well, that's good. That kind of leads us into our next little segment, unless anybody else has any questions.
We had a partner say, you know what? Why don't you take one rule every 2 weeks, and just kind of go through how we got here and talk to folks like you and see, are you using this particular rule? Have you tweaked it? How have you found success with it? Have you made it better? So that was kind of where we were, Ben and I were talking about this before the meeting. It's like, let's do that. Let's pick one of these rules out of the template that, let's let that guy in. Let's, kind of go through one of these. Ben, do you have a favorite rule?
I have one that I think should always be tweaked.
And let's talk about that.
That's mine.
Yeah.
I'll take full responsibility for this one.
Well, you also built this like a year and a half ago when Respond was brand new.
Well,
how would you have changed this
it was
today,
brand new and we didn't have filters at the time.
Very true. Very true.
So there's a couple of things I would do. Well, first of all, I think the multiple failures and success is kind of redundant down here because this one's already going to trigger off a 30 and I don't need to really wait for the second trigger here. So I would nuke these, make it much cleaner. And then the biggest issue with our system, and it's well known, is that, this rule is not looking at IP addresses, because the failures can come from multiple different IP addresses. The same thing with success. So if I have 30 failed, which is not a hard number to get to, and followed by Bob coming in and signing into work one day, successful authentication, well, we just happened to trigger that because it was just looking for these two events to happen within this certain time area right here, this 1 hour. So there's a couple of things I would do to tweak this. Like Enrique said, we can use filters. So what I would do is I want to add some extra like variables to this authentication successful. So I want to add filter, and I want to do a couple of things. I want to add, is this authentication successful coming from an IP address that's maybe a threat? Maybe. That's also not a hard thing to hit, because threat translates into either abuser or attacker is true, or both. So if you're on Xfinity or Comcast or whatever they're calling it, you might end up like triggering that pretty easily. But most likely you're not going to be signing in from a VPN, or at least your clients may not be. So we can add that one. That's a good variable to add on this. So the authentication has to be successful from a known VPN, which the bad guys are using because they know that we're looking for them inside or outside of the country. That's going to be a dead giveaway. Or we can add another one to that. We can say, like Enrique said, is it a mobile device? Well, no. So it's not a mobile device. So this isn't going to trigger if it's a mobile device. So that's not bad.
How is it for bad actors to use a mobile device?
Yeah, it's not really common. I mean, I don't usually see that, but if I was a bad actor, I would change my user agent to be a mobile device.
Yeah.
Because that's easy to do. It's extremely easy to do. I can make mine come. We see a lot of attacks coming from Macs. Now, I'm pretty sure that most of the bad guys out there aren't going to the Apple store and picking up the latest iPhone or iPad or whatever. But that's an agent that can easily fly under the radar, much more so than like Linux or Python. Any self-respecting hacker is going to be changing that so that they're as inconspicuous as possible. But that's a great thing to bring up, because think about it. So if I'm primarily working with PC users, and I'm pretty sure that none of them have Macs, you could even set up a rule that looks for that agent, a Mac agent, a successful authentication from a Mac agent. Maybe that's not normal. Now that would really be highly dependent upon your customers. So, but something that
We always kind of joke that if Ryan Ricciardi we ever see his credentials logging in an iOS, we know something's gone very sideways, because he's such a anti-Mac Nazi kind of thing. It's like absolutely adamant he would never use an iPad or an iOS. So there's, kind of joking aside, but there are some uses for that OS detection.
Mhm. And another thing that we could do here is we could look for authentication successful from an unknown device, right? So if we are using Unify and we're seeing this happen, then this could be, an immediate trigger for us to kind of start investigating. So we could also throw in some of those Unify filters as well. And if you're unsure as far as where to get those from, they are very easy to find in any one of our rule templates. If we just type in Unify, you don't necessarily have to use any of these, but you can kind of see the syntax and the structure of one. So we can see that, is mobile devices false? Is the device mapped true? Can evaluate true? And is it a device confidence lower than 50%, which would classify it as unknown?
Hey, man, that's a very nice segue. I'm going to post into the chat that some of our engineers who are building around Unify are having a little true up session about, hey, what's new in Unify? Where are we and where are we going? So if you can join us, great. If not, of course, it'll be on YouTube eventually. but please join us if you can. That's happening June 4th at 1 o'clock. And Adam on our weekly development team call yesterday was kind of telegraphing some of the things that he's going to show you. We're going to do some neat stuff. And for anybody who's heavily into Intune and everything else, please join us because it's we're going to do some really interesting things, and Adam's going to talk about that then.
Yep. And we recently released a unified video where Adam and I talk about kind of what his vision was. A little hint about what he's going to talk about in the future. But yeah, he's got some big changes that are coming really quickly. I know he was pushing for the next 30 days last time I saw him, so it's like, I'm gonna try.
Oh yeah, yeah. When he's kind of in panic mode trying to get all this done by June. So yeah, definitely join us for that. And I'm also going to post a direct link to Ben and Adam's excellent little, it was like a 15-minute discussion or 10-minute discussion, 10-minute discussion. But it was nice for even though I play with this all day long to kind of be reminded of what else you can do with Unify.
Yeah, Unify is our big thing, to combat token theft. That's the thing that's monitoring for certain actions that are being taken. And if it's from an unknown device, we kind of like want to investigate that a little bit more. But anywho, back to my rule. I would definitely add some extra filters to this, no matter what you decide to do, because these two are very easy to get to and can cause some false positives. And I don't want to see anybody locked out of their account. But just as a reminder that when you are working, especially with a rule like this, do nothing just to be on the safe side and let it run for a week or so and check to see if it's fired. And if it has, then you need to tweak it a little bit. And it's very easy to look that up. If you come under our platform here and just click on this little icon, the last 7 days of trigger history, you can easily see, oh well, this did fire, and this would have blocked Fred out of his account, and that's not good. But yeah, good question, and exactly why. Like usually when people start adding, I'm like, okay, well we can add it, but we just need to add a couple extra things to it first.
Going to the device, we consistently get incomplete device data in event or
Yep.
unknown device, but like pretty much on every event.
Yep.
Not sure if we have something configured wrong.
Well, let's kind of talk about this. Remind me which RMM tool you're using.
Datto.
Okay, fantastic.
Well, and
Datto's
we also
usually
have
pretty
one
good
customer on Ninja.
Not a problem. Are you running the Entra device ID script on both of those?
Not in Ninja, just in Datto.
Okay. That will help a lot. Anybody who's not running that, please do. That gives us a lot more robust data. It's another touch point to make sure that the SaaS events are happening on that particular piece of hardware. And that is going to be leveraged and pay off in more things that we can do in the future, kind of like what Adam is going to talk about here on the board.
Yeah.
As far as not getting that data, device unknown in a lot of those alerts, it's where we were before Unify came along. So we haven't really lost anything. But anytime that we can enrich that data, we absolutely will, Enrique.
Okay.
Yeah, and most of the time we don't monitor except for like certain events to happen with Unify. So if you have people like creating mailbox sorting rules or downloading a whole bunch of files, or perhaps what's the other one? Setting up new MFA methods from those unknown devices, then those are usually the events that we like to kind of target. But yeah, the improvements that Adam's making will help, I think, clarify any sort of those devices that are not matching up and why, and make it a lot easier to determine that.
Okay, but anything I missed on my setup of Unify?
Probably not. So the things that we usually cover with Unify are, we hit up under edit. Some people will accidentally add this, like they say Ninja One, to all their clients, and that's not the great way to do it. But some people will miss the mapping part of this, so they won't map the the clients from SaaS alerts to their RMM. So they kind of miss this step right here. We occasionally see that. And if that's the case, then there usually is a suggestion and it'll say, accept or whatnot. Like I'll show you here. You'll see something like this. And you can accept it, map it manually here. But we also encourage you to check this, and this will automatically try to map those for you. Other than that, are you using the automation for the Unify?
I am. The mapping of the companies you were doing within Unify?
Within the organization.
Okay.
So if you click on like Ninja, for example, and then the edit here, it'll go through this little check, and then it'll show you here the mapping. But like Anthony said, with Intra, it's near at 100% confidence score boost to that sort of thing. So, and if you want to find out how to do that, that's just typing in Intra into our little help box here. It's actually a lot easier to do it in Ninja than any of the other platforms I've seen. So it's definitely a good way to get that boost of confidence. And we also added a couple of reports, or a report for Unify. If you go to device mapping list here, this will show you any devices that are mapped or unmapped that we're detecting, as well as confidence. That can be a little bit helpful to determine, what's going on there. It's very similar to information you're seeing under our Unify, but we'll show you a list of all the devices. It's not currently mapped to anybody.
Is there anyone on the call who's not utilizing Unify?
Everybody is.
Everybody is. Yeah, I hope they are.
So,
maybe the question you should ask is, everyone using it effectively?
No. Then that would sound like criticism, because nobody's using it effectively, right? We always, as shades of gray there, we're always different implementations. But yeah, I love that, seeing that enter device ID on there. That really is, that's a real touchstone.
Now with the platform SSO that they released for Intune for Mac, that should be a lot more accurate as well on the Mac side.
Yeah, that's where we're going with this exactly, is I want to be less dependent upon the RMM to confirm that data.
Yep.
And the enter device ID is going a long way towards that.
Yep. That is exactly right. So hopefully you're seeing that in there too with some of your devices, for the ones that can pick it up. Not every device will have one. So if you're ever not pulling it for one reason or another, it may not be you. It could be that they're just not Azure joined, or when they were installing Office, maybe I think there's an option that says only for this application, and so that really doesn't tie your device to Azure. Or if it's a server.
Ben, clarify that for me. Do non-Azure joined devices get a unique device ID? I thought they did.
I think only if they've installed the desktop version of Office, or they've linked their account, their work account to the machine. But if they've installed the application of Office, at the very end of the installation, there's a way to says, I think when you sign in or something, it'll say only this device, only this application. But if you leave that unchecked, I think that ties that to Intra.
Very good. Very good. Hey, to divert, if that's okay, Ben, our friend Mr. Kennedy wanted to know what we can do and respond around mapped devices or non-mapped devices. And the short answer, Mr. Kennedy, is yes, we can. And Ben's going to jump over to respond and show you one of the filters that we could say, did this happen on a mapped device?
Yeah, there's a couple, and I think Max Thornton's one's used pretty often. And for this guy, Now, this is a prime example of rules that you may want to tweak, right? Because you may not want to, for unknown device, you may want to increase these occurrences or remove or add things to this. But this is a great place to start. But this is monitoring for pretty much any file activity coming from an unknown device. And yeah, if it's less than 50%, I think that classifies that as unknown right here at the bottom.
So thank you for that, Ben.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
I don't know. Remind me. Let's see here. There's also this down here at the bottom.
Yeah, that's new. I haven't seen that leveraged yet.
I don't know if Nero's on the call, but I think he was using this. I don't know if it was
I've played with that a little bit. It's 1 or 0 depending on if it matches. So you have to decide if you want to, accept the match or not.
Okay.
I found in my case it matched sometimes and other times it didn't, depending on the state of the device and its relationship to Azure and registration, stuff like that.
That's interesting. But that's and that's a pretty good example of like, the rules in our template library. There's other stuff added for Unify that they're not quite updated yet. So it's good we're covering it here.
Yeah, if anybody's built any respond rules that are leveraging the device ID, I'd love to see a copy of those, or at least, just a screen grab thrown up on our Discord server. Or shared with us here, if you guys are in.
What I did I did something for a test, and that was to because I wasn't seeing that ID on every machine, and it turned out after debugging that some machines were not necessarily registered, in an environment that would offer that number. So what I did was I wrote a couple rules to tell me when it spotted one, so I could at least focus on it. So I just made a couple of rules, that of different states. It says, okay, if you see the enter ID appear, I want to know about it so I can look at it. So those are the only rules that I actually made. It was just kind of a sniffing rule just to find one. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love it. Thank you, Rich. Excellent.
Good plan. Good plan.
Got about 15 minutes left here. Is anything else that's burning your biscuits? Anything else that we can focus on for anyone?
I had a follow-up question to the Entra ID conversation, but is the concept or the thought process behind the Entra ID that all authorized machines are going to have an Entra ID and they are by definition more trusted, which means you can relax rules on them? Or is it, or, would we build rules around saying, hey, if the Entra ID doesn't match this tenant, that's an indication of potential compromise? Or like, where are you guys coming from with the Entra ID and like, really, how should we be looking at it or potentially using it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I think I do see where you're going, and I think it's a little early to give you any indication on that. But Ben, what do you think? I've sort of seen the concept, theoretically, is that if I've got an intra machine ID and I can map that to an account that I see using it on a regular basis, then I've got a go, no-go point. If that account then does something that isn't on a machine that has a Entra ID, then I know it's outside of my existing ecosystem. Is that kind of your thought, Ben, or where are you seeing folks go with that?
I think it's, as far as I know, as far as from what Adam was telling me, was that it's really just about improving like the confidence score, so that when that user signs in from that device, that ID is relayed to Microsoft. So we're seeing that that device, which is tied to this user, and this user signing into Microsoft, and we're saying, okay, well, this Entra ID is there's matching. So that's a near 100% positive confidence score for that specific user. But it's something that I think, like you were saying, that we want to be able to use that specific information, even if the device exists outside of the RMM, since that is something that's not easily, faked, and something that is relayed to Microsoft.
Yeah, I just wonder if if you could say, hey, this Entra ID ties to this user,
Mhm.
and if I could then turn around and say, does that machine show in my RMM, and if not, execute X, right?
Oh yeah.
Because I would think that would be an interesting respond rule or detection / respond rule, because then you're saying, listen, if Joe Biden, for argument's sake, is always using Entra ID ABC 123,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden he's now over here on XYZ machine, we should that should probably raise some concerns if he's always using ABC 123 Entra ID, right?
I think that's what this is supposedly doing, right? If I'm reading this correctly, because our script that you run on the RMM will basically pull that ID and assign that to as a custom variable to that device, and that's where we're pulling it from. So I think that might be what this guy's doing. But let me do some testing and make sure.
Yeah, because so the next step of that is, as an MSP, right? Like all of us are. If I am unaware that a client is accessing data or the company environment from a machine that is not managed,
Mhm.
right? Meaning, i.e., they're not paying for it. I want to know, because I want to be able to then go back and have that conversation with the client, kind of go, hey, where did this machine come from, right? And I'm just wondering if that is, if that's a a good use case here.
Yeah.
Because I find machines all the time, and I'm like, hey, what happened here? And either my guy's screwed up, or the customer just doesn't want to increase their bill. You know what I mean?
Yes. I've been there many times. What's this brand new piece of hardware on the network that has no protection on it whatsoever?
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. You know what I mean? And because, customers always want to hold you responsible, but at the same time, they also don't want to pay for it. So, so I want,
You're right.
so I'm always looking for, machines that either shouldn't be there, or like, how many times have we all gotten, somebody goes, okay, we're decommissioning this machine. And so we pull all the tools off, and the next thing you know, 3 months later, it's back on the network accessing things.
Too many
So,
times. Too many times.
I mean, I've gotten to the point now where when a customer says, hey, we're decommissioning, we pull the MAC address and actually put it as an exclusion from DHCP, for that MAC address.
Nice.
Because that forces, the conversation, and I can go, I'm happy to add that machine back. However, it's end of life, or it's, whatever, or you need to pay me. So, I just didn't know if this was maybe another option to, to automate and track those types of things.
That's
Yes.
definitely where we're going.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
sorry, go ahead,
not
Ben.
to have any sort of like spoiler alert for what but Adam's going to talk about, but yeah, being able to track those devices that are in your RMM and see the ones that are not in your RMM and either approve or deny them is really high on his list. of abilities for Unify, because you may have someone signing in from a home machine and it's been discussed that this is acceptable risk, and we don't want to classify it as an unknown device because we know about it. It's just not in our RMM. So that's, you know, one of the things that I think that we're trying to shoot for as well. But yeah,
Okay.
I'm going to definitely test your question out, and I will definitely get back with you on that one.
Okay. I appreciate
Great
it.
discussion. Thanks, Steve. Yeah. Guys, to kind of wrap up in the last few minutes we have here, please do join us every time chance you get for the office hours like this. We really appreciate y'all showing up and asking such good questions, even if they're not
Very
specifically
good.
about the platform.
Yeah.
And do join us for the continuing conversations that we're going to have around Unify. Anybody who joined late, we've got a webinar coming up. I see marketing has gotten some stuff out today because we've got a lot of folks signing up, and some folks that were on this call signed up when we first mentioned this a little while ago. So take a look at the links in the chat and join us. We really appreciate it. Ben, any closing comments before we send these good folks on their way?
No, I really appreciate the questions, and I like thinking outside of the SaaS alerts box too. So I appreciate, never hesitate to ask any of those kind of questions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'll be opening up a ticket, guys, for this map thing. I'm going crazy because the majority of the devices are mapped. So I'll open up a ticket on that one.
There
Yeah,
was a
please do.
logic flaw that we ran into, that the dev team ran into. So if you're getting sort of false alerts and everything, you may either want to recreate that rule, or yeah, like I said, reach out to support and they can take a look at it.
More than
Enrique,
anything
you're
is
just saying
seeing
you're
the
not seeing it
device.
in every tickets, right?
I'm not like, if I go to run a report of an analysis for the last 2 days, the
Mm.
majority of those items coming up do not show a device.
Yeah, definitely.
And I have like 20 out of 500 missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely open up a ticket. And anytime you guys open up tickets, if you remember to add carbon copy your account manager, that gives us visibility, and I know they appreciate that because they don't get enough emails every day. And they like to no. But no, in all sincerity, sometimes you guys are on a parallel track with our support team, and if there's ever anything that we need to escalate, don't hesitate to reach out to your account manager and make sure that they have visibility of this as well. Because our support team is usually pretty darn good, but if we need an extra set of eyes on there, we're always happy to go to bat. You're our clients. So I think that's about it. I hope everyone has a fantastic afternoon, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, guys. Stay safe.
Bye, guys.